Hello and welcome to The Essential Reads. My name is Isaac and my goal is to bring to you a bunch of classic audiobooks in an easy and accessible way. We are continuing with North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell, and this is Chapter 13. Soft Breeze in a Sultry Place. That doubt and trouble, fear and pain, and anguish all are shown in vain, that death itself shall not remain. That weary deserts we may tread, a dreary labyrinth may thread, through dark ways underground be led. Yet if we will one guide obey, the dreariest path, the darkest way, shall issue out in heavenly day. And we, on divers shores now cast, shall meet our perilous voyage past, all in our Father's house at last. R.C. Trench. Margaret flew upstairs as soon as their visitors were gone and put on her bonnet and shawl to run and inquire how Bessy Higgins was, and sit with her as long as she could before dinner. As she went along the crowded and narrow streets, she felt how much interest they had gained by the simple fact of her having learnt to care for a dweller in them. Mary Higgins, the slatternly younger sister, had endeavoured as well as she could to tidy up the house for the expected visit. There had been rough stoning done in the middle of the floor, while the flags under the chairs and table and round the walls retained their dark, unwashed appearance. Although the day was hot, there burnt a large fire in the grate, making the whole place feel like an oven. Margaret did not understand that the lavishness of coals was a sign of hospitable welcome to her on Mary's part, and thought that perhaps the oppressive heat was necessary for Bessy. Bessy herself lay on a squab, or a short sofa, placed under the window. She was very much more feeble than on the previous day, and tired with raising herself at every step to look out and see if Margaret was coming. And now that Margaret was there, and had taken a chair by her, Bessy lay back silent, and content to look at Margaret's face and touch her articles of dress with a childish admiration of their fineness of texture.
I never knew why folk in the Bible cared for soft raiment before, but it must be nice to go dressed as you do. It's different fra common. Most fine folk tie my eyes out with their colour, but somehow yours rest me. Where'd you get this frock? In London,
Said Margaret, much amused.
London? Have you been to London? Yes, I lived there for some years, but my home was in a forest in the country. Tell me about it,
Said Bessy.
I like to hear speak of the country, and trees and such like things.
She leant back and shut her eyes and crossed her hands over her breast, lying at perfect rest, as if to receive all the ideas Margaret could suggest. Margaret had never spoken of Helstone since she left it, excepting just naming the place incidentally. She saw it in dreams more vivid than life, and as she fell away to slumber at nights, her memory wandered in all its pleasant places. But her heart was opened to this girl.
Oh, Bessy, I loved the home we have left so dearly. I wish you could see it. I cannot tell you half its beauty. There are great trees standing all about it, with their branches stretching long and level, and making a deep shade of rest even at noonday. And yet, though every leaf may seem still, there is a continual rushing sound of movement all around, not close at hand. Then, sometimes, the turf is as soft and fine as velvet, and other times quite lush with the perpetual moisture of a little hidden, tinkling brook near at hand. And then in other parts there are billowy ferns, whole stretches of fern. Some in the green shadow, some with long streaks of golden sunlight lying on them, just like the sea. I've never seen the sea,
Murmured Bessy.
but go on. Then, here and there are wide commons, high up, as if above the very tops of the trees. I'm glad of that. I felt smothered like down below. When I have gone for a out, I've always wanted to get up high and see far away and take a deep breath of fullness in that air. I get smothered enough in Milton, and I think the sound you speak of among the trees going on forever and ever would send me dazed. It's that made my head ache so in the mill. Now, on these commons, I reckon, there is but little noise. No, said Margaret. Nothing but here and there a lark high in the air. Sometimes I used to hear a farmer speaking sharp and loud to his servants, but it was so far away it only reminded me pleasantly that other people were hard at work in some distant place, while I sat on the heather and did nothing. I used to think once that if I could have a day of doing nothing to rest me, a day in some quiet place like that you speak on, it would maybe set me up. But now I've had many days of idleness, and I'm just as weary of 'em as I was my work. Sometimes I'm so tired out, I think I cannot enjoy heaven without a piece of rest first. I'm rather afraid of going straight there without getting a good sleep in the grave to set me up. Don't be afraid, Bessy, said Margaret, laying her hand on the girl's hand. God can give you more perfect rest than even idleness on earth, or the dead sleep of the grave can do. Bessy moved unevenly. Then she said, I wish father would not speak to me as he does. He means well, as I told you yesterday, and tell you again and again. But you see, though I don't believe him a bit by day, yet by night, when I'm in a fever, half asleep and half awake, it comes back upon me. Oh, so bad. And I think if this is the end of all, and if all I've been born for is just to work my heart and my life away, and to sicken in this dree place with them mill noises in my ears forever, until I could scream out for them to stop and let me have a little piece of quiet, and with the fluff filling my lungs till I thirst to death for one long deep breath of the clear air you speak on, and my mother gone, and I never able to tell her again how I loved her, and all my troubles, I think if this life is the end, and there's no God to wipe away all my tears from my eyes, you wench, you, said she, sitting up and clutching violently, almost fiercely at Margaret's hand. I could go mad and kill you, I could. She fell back, completely worn out with her passion. Margaret knelt down by her. Bessy, we have a Father in heaven. I know it, moaned she, taking her head uneasily from side to side. I'm very wicked. I've spoken very wickedly. Oh, don't be frightened, Bam, you never come again. I would not harm a hair on your head, and... Opening her eyes and looking earnestly at Margaret, I believe, perhaps, more than you do of what's to come. I read the book of Revelations until I know it off by heart, and I never doubt when I'm waking and in my senses of all the glory I'm to come to. Don't let us talk of what fantasies come into your head when you're feverish. I would rather hear something about what you used to do when you were well. I think I was well when Mother died, but I've never been rightly strong since somewhere about that time. I began to work in a carding room soon after, and the fluff got into my lungs and poisoned me. Fluff? Said Margaret inquiringly. Fluff, repeated Bessy. Little bits as fly from the cotton when they're carding it, and fill the air till it looks all fine white dust. They say it winds round the lungs and tightens them up. Anyhow, there's many a one that works in a carding room that falls into a waste, coughing and spitting blood because they're just poisoned by the fluff. But can't it be helped? Asked Margaret. I dunno. Some folk have a great wheel at one end of their carding rooms to make a draught and carry off the dust. But the wheel costs a deal of money, £500 or £600 maybe, and brings in no profit. So it's but a few of the masters as will put 'em up. And I've heard tell of men who didn't like working in places where there was a wheel, because they said how it made 'em hungry, and after they'd been long used to swallowing fluff to go without it, and that their wages ought to be raised if they were to work in such places. So between masters and men, the wheels fall through. I know I wish there'd been a wheel in our place, though. Did not your father know about it?
asked Margaret.
Yes, and he was sorry. But our factory were a good one on the whole, and a steady, likely set of people, and father was afeard of letting me go to a strange place. For though you would not think it now, many a one used to call me a gradely lass enough. And I didna like to be reckoned nesh and soft, and Mary's schoolings were to be kept up, mother said. And father, he were always liking to buy books and go to lectures of one kind and another, all which took money. So I just worked on till I shall never get the whir out of me ears or the fluff out of me throat in this world. That's all. How old are you?
Asked Margaret.
19 come July. And I too am 19.
She thought more sorrowfully than Bessy did of the contrast between them. She could not speak for a moment or two for the emotion she was trying to keep down.
About Mary,
Said Bessy.
I wanted to ask you to be a friend to her. She's 17, but she's the last on us, and I don't want her to go to the mill. And yet I dunno what she's fit for. She could not do.
Margaret glanced unconsciously at the uncleaned corners of the room.
She could hardly undertake a servant's place, could she? We have an old faithful servant, almost a friend, who wants help, but who is very particular, and it would not be right to plague her with giving her any assistance that would really be an annoyance and an irritation. No, I see. I reckon you're right. Our Mary's a good wench, but who is she had to teach her what to do about the house? No mother, and me at the mill till I was good for nothing but scolding her for doing badly what I didn't know how to do a bit. I wish she could have lived with you for all that. But even though she may not be exactly fitted to come and live with us as a servant, and I don't know about that, I will always try to be a friend for her for your sake, Bessy. And now I must go. I will come again as soon as I can. But if it should not be tomorrow, or the next day, or even a week or a fortnight hence, don't think I've forgotten you. I may be busy. I know you won't forget me again. I'll not mistrust you no more. But remember, in a week or a fortnight, I may be dead and buried. I will come as soon as I can, Bessy,
Said Margaret, squeezing her hand tight.
but you'll let me know if you get worse. Aye, that I will,
Said Bessy, returning the pressure. From that day forwards, Mrs. Hale became more and more of a suffering invalid. It was now dawning near to the anniversary of Edith's marriage, and looking back upon the year's accumulated heap of troubles, Margaret wondered how they had been borne. If she could have anticipated them, how she would have shrunk away and hid herself from the coming time. And yet day by day had, of itself, and by itself, been very endurable. Small, keen, bright little spots of positive enjoyment having come sparkling into the very middle of sorrows. A year ago, or when she first went to Helstone, and first became silently conscious of the querulousness in her mother's temper, she would have groaned bitterly over the idea of a long illness to be borne in a strange, desolate, noisy, busy place, with diminished comforts on every side of the home life. But with the increase of the serious and just ground of complaint, a new kind of patience had sprung up in her mother's mind. She was gentle and quiet in intense bodily suffering, almost in proportion as when she had been restless and depressed when there had been no real cause for grief. Mr. Hale was in exactly that stage of apprehension which, in men of his stamp, takes the shape of wilful blindness. He was more irritated than Margaret had ever known him to be at his daughter's expressed anxiety. Indeed, Margaret, you are growing fanciful. God knows that I should be the first to take alarm if your mother were really ill. We always saw when she had her headaches at Helstone, even without telling us. She looks quite pale and white when she is ill. And now she has a bright and healthy colour in her cheeks, just as she used to have when I first knew her. But, Papa, said Margaret with hesitation, do you know I think that is the flush of pain? Nonsense, Margaret. I tell you, you're too fanciful. You are the person not well, I think. Send for the doctor tomorrow for yourself, and then, if it will make your mind easier, he can see your mother.
Thank you, dear papa. It will make me happier indeed.
And she went up to him to kiss him. But he pushed her away, gently enough, but still as if she had suggested unpleasant ideas, which he should be glad to get rid of as readily as he could of her presence. He walked uneasily up and down the room. Poor Maria, he said, half soliloquizing. I wish one could do right without sacrificing others. I shall hate this town, and hate myself, too, if she... Pray, Margaret, does your mother often talk to you of the old places? Of Helstone, I mean.
No, papa,
said Margaret sadly. Then, you see, she can't be fretting after them, eh? It has always been a comfort to me to think that your mother was so simple and open that I knew every little grievance she had. She would never conceal anything seriously affecting her health from me, would she, eh, Margaret? I'm quite sure she would not. So don't let me hear of these foolish, morbid ideas. Come, give me a kiss and run off to bed. But she heard him pacing about, raccooning, as she and Edith used to call it, long after her low and languid undressing was finished, long after she began to listen as she lay in bed. Thank you so very much for listening. If you enjoyed, please like, comment, share, all that jazz, and if you really enjoyed, do subscribe because there is more to come. If you're listening on podcast platforms, please leave a review as it's the easiest way to get this in front of as many people as possible, and reading your reviews really, really makes my day. If you want to support the show further, there is a Ko-Fi link here on screen or also in the description box, but realistically, the best thing that you could do for me would be to listen to the show while you're asleep, to allow me to get the listening hours requirements that I need in order to unlock monetization there. It would be absolutely fantastic if I could get that. It would really, really change my life. So if you can do that, thank you so very much for being able to do so. Once again, thank you so very much for listening, and until next time, bye-bye.